Maya Ellison had built an empire on being untouchable, literally. For 20 years, no human contact could break through her carefully constructed walls. But when a maintenance worker's gentle hands caught her stumble in a quiet hotel room, everything she thought she knew about herself shattered in an instant. What started as an accidental touch would ignite a forbidden romance that threatened to destroy her billion-dollar reputation, tear apart a single father's world, and expose secrets that powerful people would kill to keep buried. The cameras were already watching, the board members were already plotting, and somewhere in the shadows, someone was about to make a move that would change all their lives forever. Because when a CEO falls for the help, the fall is never just about love. It's about power, control, and how far people will go to protect what they think they own. Maya thought she was finally learning to trust, but she had no idea that her greatest enemy was already inside the walls she'd built to keep everyone out. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story of forbidden love and corporate betrayal is just getting started. The donor reception buzzed with polite conversation and the gentle clink of wine glasses against marble tables. Maya Ellison smoothed her navy dress and checked her watch. 7:45. Just 15 more minutes, and she could slip away from the smiles and handshakes that came with running Boston's most exclusive boutique hotel group. She needed air. Real air, not the perfumed kind that floated through these events. Maya found what she was looking for down the hall. A small room marked quiet space with a frosted glass door. She slipped inside and closed it behind her, letting her shoulders drop for the first time in hours. The room held just 2 chairs and a small table with a sound machine humming white noise. She turned off the machine and listened to her own breathing. In, out, steady. The door opened behind her. "Oh, sorry. I was looking for the restroom." A man's voice, gentle and surprised. Maya spun around and the movement caught her off guard. Her heel twisted and she stumbled backward toward the wall. Strong hands caught her, one at her elbow, one steadying her palm. Maya's breath stopped. She waited for the panic to hit, for her skin to crawl, for the familiar need to run. She'd spent 20 years building walls around herself, 20 years where no one touched her without warning, without permission, without careful planning. But the panic didn't come. The man let go the moment she was steady. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. The doors all look the same on this floor." Maya looked up at him. He was about her age, with kind brown eyes and work clothes that didn't match the fancy hotel setting. A maintenance badge hung from his pocket. "It's okay," she heard herself say. The words came out steady, normal. "Really, I'm fine." He stepped back, hands visible, giving her space. "I was checking a breaker issue, got turned around." He paused, studying her face with concern. "You sure you're all right?" Maya nodded, testing her balance. Her hands weren't shaking. Her heart was beating fast, but not from fear. From something else, something she couldn't name. "Thank you," she said, "for catching me." "Of course." He backed toward the door. "I'll let you have your quiet space back." After he left, Maya closed the door and stared at her palm in the soft light. The spot where his hand had touched hers still felt warm. "I was okay," she whispered to the empty room. 10 minutes later, Maya rejoined the reception, slipping back into her role as the composed CEO. A donor cornered her by the dessert table, talking about golf courses and tax breaks. She nodded and smiled, but her mind kept drifting to the feeling of steady hands and gentle eyes. "Maya, darling, you look like you need rescuing." Evelyn Shaw appeared at her elbow, silver-haired and sharp as always. At 58, Evelyn had been Maya's mentor since college and now chaired the hotel group's board. She had a gift for reading Maya's moods. "Just tired," Maya said, which wasn't entirely true. "Why don't you step away? I'll handle Mr. Peterson's golf stories." Maya squeezed Evelyn's arm gratefully. 5 minutes. I just need to check something at the office." In the elevator, Maya's hand started to tremble. Not from fear this time, but from wonder. She pressed her palm against the cool metal wall and tried to understand what had happened in that quiet room. For 20 years, unexpected touch had meant trouble. It meant flashbacks to a childhood she'd worked hard to forget, meant panic attacks that left her gasping for air, meant carefully planned days where every interaction was controlled and safe. But tonight had been different. The next morning arrived gray and drizzly, typical for Boston in early fall. Maya sat in her corner office on the hotel's top floor, reviewing quarterly reports and trying to focus on profit margins instead of mysterious maintenance men. Her assistant knocked and peeked in. "The elevator repairs here. Should I send them up?" Maya nodded absently, then froze as footsteps approached her doorway. It was him. "Ma'am?" He knocked on the doorframe, tool bag in hand. "I'm Luke Bennett. Hear about the silent alarm in the executive elevator." Luke, so that was his name. "Of course." Maya stood, smoothing her skirt. "What do you need me to do?" "Just wondering if I could step inside the car for a minute. Need to check the panel response." He waited for her answer, not assuming, not pushing, asking. "Yes, that's fine." Maya followed him to her private elevator. Luke set his bag down carefully and pulled out a small device. "Would you mind pressing the alarm button while I watch the signal?" He pointed to the panel. "Should be the red one on the bottom left." Maya pressed it, and Luke's device beeped softly. "Perfect. Working fine." He packed up his tools, then paused. "This might sound weird, but would you try touching the handrail? Sometimes the electrical current can be off, and I want to make sure it's safe." Maya hesitated. The handrail was metal, cold, nothing like warm human hands, but Luke's request was practical, professional. She placed her palm on it and counted to 3, breathing slowly. "Still okay." "Good," Luke said, watching her face rather than her hand. "No shock or tingling?" "No, it feels normal." Luke nodded and shouldered his bag. At the threshold, he stopped. "If you need anything else with this panel this week, I'll be on call. Name's Luke Bennett. Maintenance knows how to reach me." After he left, Maya stood in the elevator, staring at her reflection in the polished doors. She looked the same as always, put together, professional, untouchable. But something inside felt different. Later that morning, Evelyn knocked on Maya's office door. "Coffee break?" she asked, settling into the chair across from Maya's desk. "I had a strange moment last night," Maya said without preamble. "Someone touched me, accidentally, and I didn't panic." Evelyn's eyebrows rose. "Tell me." Maya described the stumble, the steadying hands, the unexpected calm. Evelyn listened without interrupting, the way she always did. "How do you feel about it now?" Evelyn asked. "Confused? Maybe hopeful? I don't know." Maya traced the edge of her coffee cup. "He was kind, really kind, not pushy or expecting anything." "That's wonderful, darling. But be careful about the optics. You know how people talk." "What do you mean?" "A CEO and a maintenance worker? People will have opinions. Some of them won't be kind." Evelyn's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm not saying don't explore this. I'm saying think about how you want to handle it." Maya nodded slowly. She'd built her career on being above reproach, beyond gossip. But for the first time in years, she wanted something that had nothing to do with board meetings or profit reports. That evening, Maya was crossing the hotel lobby when she saw them, Luke and a little girl with pigtails carrying paper lanterns from some school project. "Those are beautiful," Maya said, stopping near the concierge desk. The little girl beamed. "I made the purple one. Daddy helped with the yellow." "Sophie's working on a project about different cultures," Luke explained. "We're studying Chinese New Year." Maya knelt down to Sophie's level, careful to keep distance between them. "Purple is my favorite color." "Really? Mine too." Sophie bounced on her toes. "This hotel is so pretty. Do you live here?" "I work here," Maya said. "I help make sure everything runs smoothly." "Like Daddy, he fixes things when they break." Luke caught Maya's eye over Sophie's head, and they shared a small smile. "We should head home," Luke said. "It's almost bedtime for someone." "Can we come back and see the pretty lobby again?" Sophie asked. "We'll see," Luke said, the way parents do when they mean maybe. Maya watched them walk toward the door, Luke's hand gentle on his daughter's shoulder, Sophie chattering about her lanterns. They looked comfortable together, easy in a way that made Maya's chest tight with longing. From across the lobby, Mr. Alvarez, the evening concierge, snapped a quick photo with his phone. He'd been with the hotel for 15 years and took pride in capturing what he called good moments for the staff newsletter. The photo showed Luke holding the door, Sophie skipping through, and Maya standing nearby with the softest smile anyone had seen on her face in months. Mr. Alvarez meant no harm. He just wanted to remember a kind day, a pretty scene, a moment when his boss looked genuinely happy. But kindness and good intentions don't always protect people from consequences. The next afternoon, Maya found herself walking the service corridors, telling herself she needed to check on maintenance issues. She wasn't looking for Luke. Not really. She found him in a narrow hallway, working on an electrical panel. "Thank you," she said, startling him slightly. "For last night. Sophie is lovely." Luke smiled. "She liked you too. Asked 3 questions about purple on the way home." "I wanted to ask you something." Maya took a breath. "Would you be interested in having coffee? Somewhere neutral? I know this might seem strange, but I'd like to talk to you." Luke studied her face. "About what?" "About being careful," Maya said. "About going slow. About making sure we both feel safe with whatever this is." "This?" "I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out." Luke was quiet for a moment. Then, "There's a bench by the water, about 2 blocks from here. I take my lunch breaks there sometimes. Tomorrow? 1 o'clock? I'll be there." They met the next day on a simple wooden bench overlooking Boston Harbor. The October air was crisp, and Maya pulled her coat closer as she sat down, leaving space between them. "I want to be honest with you," she said. "I have trouble with touch, have for a long time, but something about last night, about you, felt different." Luke nodded. "What kind of trouble?" "Panic attacks, bad ones, so I usually avoid any situation where someone might touch me unexpectedly." Maya's voice was steady, matter of fact. "I need rules, clear boundaries, permission before anything." "Okay," Luke said simply. "What kind of rules?" Maya pulled a small notebook from her purse and tore out a page. "Can we write them down, so we're both clear?" For the next 20 minutes, they crafted a list. Meet in public spaces. Always ask before any touch. Keep contact brief and repeatable. Either person can say no anytime. If Maya feels overwhelmed, she'll say, "Lantern," and Luke will step back. "Can we try something small?" Maya asked when they finished writing. "What did you have in Air's mind?" "A handshake, but I'll start it, and I'll let go first." Maya held out her hand. Luke waited until she reached for his, then wrapped his fingers around hers gently. She counted to 3, breathing steadily, then released. "How was that?" Luke asked. "Good. Really good." They sat quietly for a moment, watching boats move across the harbor. "I should tell you," Luke said. "I'm not looking for anything complicated. Sophie comes first, always. And I work maintenance. I fix broken toilets and change light bulbs. I'm not in your league." Maya turned to look at him fully. "What league is that?" "The kind where you wear suits that cost more than I make in a month." "You think that matters to me?" "Doesn't it?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. 20 years ago, I decided that success meant being untouchable, literally. I built walls so high that no one could hurt me, but they also kept out anything good." She met his eyes. "I'm tired of being untouchable." "Okay," Luke said, "but we go slow, really slow. Slow works for me." As they stood to leave, Maya held out her hand again. This time the handshake lasted 5 seconds, and when she let go, both of them were smiling. Neither of them noticed Mr. Alvarez walking past with his phone, or the soft click of the camera as he captured what he thought was a sweet moment between his boss and a kind maintenance worker. The photo would be forwarded to a staff group chat within the hour, with the caption, "Kind day at the harbor." By evening, it would be in 3 different message threads. By morning, someone would recognize Maya from the hotel's advertising and ask the question that would change everything. Is that the CEO? But for now, in this moment, there were just 2 people learning to trust each other, one careful breath at a time. The morning light filtered through Maya's office windows as she reviewed the weekly staff reports. Her phone buzzed with a text from Luke. "Bench at lunch? Sophie's with her mom today." Maya typed back, "See you at 1." She was learning to look forward to these moments, the careful handshakes, the quiet conversations by the water. 3 weeks had passed since their first meeting on the bench, and they'd built a rhythm. Tuesday lunches, Thursday evening walks, Saturday morning coffee before Luke picked up Sophie. Each meeting followed their written rules. Maya would initiate contact, a brief handshake, sometimes a touch to his forearm when she laughed. Luke would wait for her signal, never pushing, never assuming. The panic attacks that had haunted her for 20 years stayed away. At 12:30, Evelyn knocked on Maya's door. "Coffee meeting," Maya said, grabbing her coat. "Maya," Evelyn's voice was careful. "I need to tell you something. Sandra Morrison called this morning." Maya's steps slowed. Sandra sat on the hotel group's board and had never liked Maya's age or what she called modern management styles. What did she want? Someone forwarded her a photo. You and a man by the harbor. She wanted to know if there was anything the board should be aware of. Maya's stomach dropped. "What did you tell her?" "That your personal life is your business, as long as it doesn't affect the company." Evelyn's expression was firm. "But she mentioned the staff chat groups have been talking." "About what?" "About whether it's appropriate for a CEO to date an employee." Maya closed her eyes. She'd known this might happen, but hearing it still felt like a punch to the chest. "What do you think I should do?" "Be careful," Evelyn said. "Keep your meetings low-key, and Maya, don't let them scare you away from something good." Luke was already waiting when Maya reached the bench, but something in her expression made him stand up quickly. "What's wrong?" Maya sat down heavily. "Someone took photos, the board knows." "About us?" "About us meeting, about the possibility of us." Maya rubbed her temples. "I knew this could happen. I just hoped we'd have more time to figure out what we were doing." Luke sat beside her, careful to leave space. "What are you thinking?" "I don't know. Maybe we should—" "Maya." Luke's voice was gentle but firm. "Look at me." She did. "Are you happy when we're together?" "Yes." "Do I make you feel safe?" "Yes." "Then we figure it out. Together." Luke held out his hand, palm up. "If you want to." Maya looked at his hand for a long moment, then placed hers in it. She counted to 5, breathing steadily. "Together," she agreed. That evening, Luke was making dinner in his small apartment when his phone rang. Jenna's name flashed on the screen. "Hey," he answered, stirring pasta sauce. "Sophie okay?" "She's fine. But Luke, I need to ask you something." Jenna's voice was cautious. "Are you dating someone?" Luke turned off the burner. "Why?" "Because Mrs. Patterson from Sophie's school mentioned seeing you with a woman, a well-dressed black woman by the harbor." Jenna paused. She seemed to think she recognized her from somewhere. Luke closed his eyes. "Her name is Maya. We're getting to know each other." "How serious is it?" "I don't know yet. We're taking it slow." "Luke, you know I don't care who you date. But if this gets complicated, if it brings attention to Sophie—" "It won't." Luke's voice was firm. "I won't let anything hurt Sophie's routine or her safety." "Okay, I trust you. Just be careful." After Jenna hung up, Luke stared at his phone. The pasta water was boiling over, but he didn't notice. All he could think about was the worry in his ex-wife's voice and the way Maya had looked that afternoon, like she was preparing to run. Saturday morning came gray and drizzly. Maya waited at their usual coffee shop, checking her watch. Luke was 10 minutes late, which wasn't like him. When he finally arrived, Sophie was with him. "Sorry," he said, slightly out of breath. "Jenna had an emergency at work. I hope it's okay." "Of course." Maya smiled at Sophie, who was carrying a large sheet of paper. "What's that?" "Kite designs," Sophie said proudly. "For art class. Want to see?" They found a corner table, and Sophie spread out her drawing. It showed 3 figures on a hill, one tall with short hair, one taller with longer hair, and one small with pigtails. Above them flew colorful kites shaped like stars. "This is me," Sophie pointed to the small figure, "and Daddy," and she looked at Maya shyly. "I drew you too. Hope that's okay?" Maya's throat tightened. "It's beautiful, Sophie. Do you like stars?" "I love them." "Good. 'Cause the star kite is yours." Luke caught Maya's eye across the table. Something passed between them, understanding maybe, or recognition that this was bigger than just the two of them now. After they finished their hot chocolate, Luke walked Sophie to the restroom. Maya stayed at the table, looking at the drawing. In Sophie's world, the 3 of them belonged together on that hill, flying kites under an endless sky. She pulled out her phone and took a picture of the drawing. Monday morning brought a call from Mr. Alvarez. "Miss Ellison, I'm sorry to bother you, but I think I might have made a mistake." Maya's heart sank. What kind of mistake? "The photos I've been taking for the staff newsletter, I didn't think about how they might be shared." His voice was worried. "Some of the younger staff have been putting them in group chats. I didn't mean for it to go beyond our hotel family." "Which photos, Mr. Alvarez?" "The ones of you and Mr. Bennett, by the door that first night and at the harbor." He paused. "I thought they showed kindness. I didn't think about gossip." Maya closed her eyes. "Thank you for telling me. Should I stop taking photos?" "Just be more careful about who sees them," Maya said gently. "I know you meant well." After hanging up, Maya stared out her window at the harbor. She could see their bench from here, empty in the morning light. Her desk phone rang. Evelyn's assistant. "Ms. Shaw would like to see you when you have a moment." Maya found Evelyn in the glass-walled conference room, reading something on her tablet. "Sit," Evelyn said without looking up. "We have a problem." She turned the tablet toward Maya. The screen showed a local neighborhood blog with the headline, "Mystery Man with Waterfront CEO." Below it was Mr. Alvarez's photo from the hotel lobby, Luke holding the door, Sophie skipping through, Maya standing nearby with that soft smile. "It's not a big story," Evelyn said. "Just neighborhood gossip. But Sandra Morrison called again. She wants to discuss company image at next week's board meeting." Maya stared at the photo. It was innocent, just 3 people in a lobby. But she could see how it might look to others, the CEO and the maintenance worker, the successful black woman and the white single father. All the ways people would try to make it about more than just 2 people finding each other. "What do you think I should do?" "That depends. How serious is this?" Maya thought about Saturday morning, about Sophie's drawing, about the way Luke waited for her permission before every touch. "I think it could be very serious." "Then you need to decide what you're willing to fight for." That evening, Maya texted Luke. "Can we talk? Your place?" She'd never been to his apartment before. It was small but clean, with Sophie's artwork covering the refrigerator and a couch that had seen better days. "Sophie's at Jenna's tonight," Luke said, letting her in. "You sounded worried in your text." Maya showed him the blog post on her phone. Luke read it twice, his jaw tightening. "Mystery Man," he said, "classy. It gets worse. The board wants to discuss it and—" Maya hesitated. "I think we need to be more careful about being seen together." Luke set her phone on the coffee table. "Careful how?" "No more public places, at least until this dies down." "Maya." Luke's voice was quiet. "Are you ashamed of me?" "No, never." Maya turned to face him fully. "But I'm scared. Scared of what this attention might do to Sophie. To you. To us." Luke was quiet for a long moment. "I'm scared too, but not of the same things." "What are you scared of?" "That you'll decide I'm not worth the trouble." Maya felt something crack open in her chest. Without thinking, she reached for his hand. "Beginning now," she said, following their ritual. Luke's fingers closed around hers. They sat like that for several minutes, just holding hands and thinking about all the ways the world might try to pull them apart. "What if we make our own rules?" Maya said finally. "What do you mean?" "What if we stop meeting in public for a while, but we don't stop meeting? Your place, my place. Somewhere we can figure this out without cameras and gossip." "And Sophie?" "Sophie comes first, always. If this gets too complicated for her, we step back." Luke lifted their joined hands and pressed a soft kiss to her knuckles. It was the most intimate thing he'd done, and Maya's breath caught. "Beginning now," he said softly. "Beginning now," she agreed. 2 weeks later, they'd settled into a new rhythm. Maya would come to Luke's apartment on Tuesday and Thursday evenings after Sophie was asleep. Saturday mornings, they'd meet at Maya's condo downtown, drinking coffee and talking until Luke had to leave for his weekend with Sophie. The gossip had died down, mostly. The blog post had been forgotten, replaced by newer neighborhood drama. Sandra Morrison still mentioned propriety in board meetings, but Evelyn shut her down each time. Maya was learning Luke's routines, how he made coffee strong enough to wake the dead, how he checked every lock twice before bed, how he saved every piece of Sophie's artwork even when she said he could throw it away. Luke was learning Maya's careful boundaries, how she needed warning. Before he moved toward her, how she counted to 5 during longer touches, how she relaxed completely only when she felt totally in control. On a Thursday night in late October, Maya was curled up on Luke's couch, reading through quarterly reports while he balanced his checkbook at the kitchen table. "This is nice," she said without looking up. "The reports, the quiet, the routine." Maya set her papers aside. "I haven't felt this settled in years." Luke came over and sat beside her, careful to leave space. "Can I try something?" "What?" "Put your head on my shoulder, just for a minute." Maya's heart sped up. "You'll stay still?" "Completely still." Maya shifted closer and rested her head against Luke's shoulder. His shirt was soft, and she could hear his heartbeat, steady and calm. She counted to 10, then 20, then stopped counting. "How's that?" Luke asked softly. "Perfect." They stayed like that until Maya's phone rang. Evelyn, checking about tomorrow's morning meeting. Real life, calling them back. But for those quiet minutes on Luke's old couch, Maya felt something she'd thought was lost forever. The simple peace of being held. The peace didn't last. On Friday morning, Maya's assistant buzzed her office. "There's a gentleman here to see you. Says it's about photos?" Maya's blood went cold. "Send him in." The man who entered was young, maybe 25, with a press badge and a camera bag. "Ms. Ellison, I'm Danny Chen from the Boston Herald. I'm working on a story about workplace relationships in hospitality companies." Maya kept her expression neutral. "I'm not sure how I can help you. I have some photos of you with one of your employees, Luke Bennett. I wanted to give you a chance to comment before we publish." Maya's hands stayed steady on her desk, but inside, she was falling. "What kind of photos?" Danny pulled out a tablet and showed her the screen. There were 3 images: Maya leaving Luke's apartment building, Luke kissing her hand in his doorway, both of them walking to Maya's condo on Saturday morning. "Where did you get these?" "Anonymous tip, someone's been following you for a few weeks." Danny's voice was businesslike, not cruel, but that somehow made it worse. "Care to comment on the relationship? Any concerns about the power dynamic between a CEO and a maintenance worker?" Maya stared at the photos. In them, she looked happy. Luke looked happy. They looked like 2 people falling in love. "No comment," she said quietly. "The story runs Sunday. Front page of the lifestyle section." After Danny left, Maya sat in her empty office and tried to breathe. Sunday was 3 days away. 3 days to figure out how to protect Luke and Sophie from the storm that was coming. 3 days to decide whether love was worth fighting for, or whether some things were too good to last. She picked up her phone and scrolled to Luke's number. Then she set it down and put her head in her hands. Some conversations were too important for text messages. Maya drove to Luke's apartment that evening without calling first. Her hands shook as she climbed the stairs to his second-floor unit. The newspaper photos burned into her memory. Luke opened the door, in jeans and a paint-splattered t-shirt, Sophie giggling in the background as she worked on homework at the kitchen table. "Maya," Sophie called out, "look, I finished my math." "That's wonderful," Maya said, but her voice came out tight and strange. Luke studied her face. "Sophie, can you work on your reading in your room for a few minutes? I need to talk to Maya." Sophie gathered her books cheerfully. "Can Maya help me with spelling later?" "We'll see, sweetheart." When Sophie's bedroom door closed, Luke turned to Maya. "What's wrong?" Maya pulled out her phone and showed him the photos. Luke's face went pale as he scrolled through them. "When do they publish?" "Sunday, front page lifestyle section." Maya's voice cracked slightly. "Luke, I'm so sorry. I never thought—" "Hey." Luke set the phone down and reached for her hands, then stopped, remembering their rules. "Can I—" Maya nodded, and Luke took her hands gently. "This isn't your fault," he said firmly. "Isn't it? I'm the CEO. I'm the one with everything to lose." "We both have things to lose." Luke glanced toward Sophie's room. "But we knew this was possible." Maya pulled her hands free and started pacing the small living room. "You don't understand. When this story comes out, there will be more reporters. They'll dig into your life, Sophie's life. They'll camp outside her school, ask her teachers questions." Luke's jaw tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we should take a break until it dies down. A break. Just temporarily. To protect Sophie. Luke was quiet for a long moment. And after it dies down? Then what? Then we see. Maya, look at me. She stopped pacing and met his eyes. Are you breaking up with me because you're scared for Sophie, or because you're scared of what people will say about you dating down? The question hit like a slap. That's not fair, isn't it? You told me you were tired of being untouchable. But the first time someone threatens that perfect image, you want to run. This isn't about my image. This is about protecting your daughter. My daughter's my responsibility, not yours. Maya stared at him. I can't do this, Luke. I can't be the reason Sophie gets hurt. And I can't be with someone who thinks I'm too much of a liability to stand beside in public. Sophie's bedroom door opened and she peeked out. Are you guys fighting? Luke immediately softened his voice. We're just having a grown-up conversation, sweetheart. Maya looked sad. Sophie walked over and studied Maya's face with the brutal honesty of 7-year-olds. Did someone hurt your feelings? Maya knelt down to Sophie's level, tears threatening. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices. What kind of choices? Maya looked at Luke over Sophie's head. His expression was careful, waiting. The kind that keep people safe, Maya said finally. Sophie nodded seriously. Like when Daddy makes me wear my seatbelt even when I don't want to. Something like that. But seatbelts don't make car rides stop being fun. Maya's chest tightened. No, they don't. So why do you look like you're not going to come see us anymore? Maya glanced at Luke again. He wasn't helping her, wasn't making this easier. He was letting her choose. I don't know yet, sweetheart. Sophie hugged Maya quickly, surprising them both. I hope you don't stop coming. You make Daddy smile different. Maya barely slept that weekend. Saturday morning came gray and cold, and she found herself walking the harbor path where she and Luke used to meet. The bench was empty, covered with fallen leaves. Her phone buzzed with a text from Evelyn. Saw the advance copy. Story's not as bad as it could be. Mostly quotes about workplace relationships in general. But there are the photos. Maya didn't respond. She kept walking until she reached the hotel, then took the elevator to her office and tried to lose herself in quarterly budgets and staff schedules. Sunday's paper arrived at her condo at dawn. Maya made coffee and spread the lifestyle section on her kitchen counter, steeling herself. The headline read, Love in the Workplace When Power Meets Romance. The article was surprisingly fair, discussing the complex dynamics of workplace relationships across different industries, quoting employment lawyers and HR experts. Maya and Luke were just one example among several, but the photos told a different story. There she was, leaving Luke's building with a soft smile. There was Luke, kissing her hand in the doorway like something from a movie. There they were, walking together toward her condo, comfortable and close. They looked like a couple in love, which was exactly what made it dangerous. Maya's phone rang at 8 a.m., unknown number. Ms. Ellison, this is Tracy Walsh from Channel 7 News. We'd like to interview you about workplace romance policies at your company. Maya hung up without answering. The phone rang again immediately. Then again. By noon, she'd gotten 12 interview requests, 3 requests for comment, and 2 invitations to appear on morning talk shows. Monday brought an emergency board meeting. Maya sat at the head of the polished conference table, facing 6 skeptical faces and Evelyn's carefully neutral expression. Sandra Morrison had printed copies of the newspaper article for everyone. I think we need to discuss the company's position on this matter, Sandra said, sliding her reading glasses down her nose. Our CEO's personal life is now front-page news. It's the lifestyle section, Evelyn said mildly, and the coverage was quite balanced. That's not the point, Sandra turned to Maya. What assurances can you give us that this relationship won't continue to generate negative attention? Maya had prepared for this question, but sitting here under the fluorescent lights, she felt small and tired. My personal life doesn't affect my ability to run this company, she said finally. But it does affect the company's reputation, board member Robert Chen pointed out. We've worked hard to build an image of professionalism and excellence. And you think dating someone who works in maintenance damages that image? Maya's voice was sharp. The room went quiet. I think, Sandra said carefully, that dating any employee creates complications. The optics are particularly challenging when there's such a significant difference in position and, frankly, socioeconomic status. So if Luke were a lawyer or a doctor, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Maya, Evelyn said gently, no one's questioning your judgment. We're just concerned about managing the situation. What do you want me to do? End the relationship, Sandra said bluntly, or Mr. Bennett finds employment elsewhere. Maya stared at her. You want me to fire him for dating me? We want to eliminate the conflict of interest. There is no conflict of interest. Luke reports to building management, not to me directly. Maya, Robert Chen leaned forward. Be practical. This story has legs. There will be more reporters, more questions. Is this relationship worth the distraction? Maya thought about Sophie's drawing, about quiet evenings on Luke's couch, about the way her panic attacks had disappeared when Luke was near. I need time to think, she said. How much time? Sandra asked. A week. 3 days, Sandra countered. We need this resolved before it gets worse. Maya spent Monday evening in her condo staring at her phone. She'd started to text Luke a dozen times, but couldn't find the right words. Finally, she called Evelyn. How bad is it really? Maya asked without preamble. Sandra's being dramatic, Evelyn said, but she's not wrong about the attention. I've gotten calls from 3 other news outlets today. What do you think I should do? What do you want to do? Maya was quiet for a long moment. I want to fight for him, but I'm scared it'll hurt Sophie. Have you talked to Luke about what he wants? He thinks I'm ashamed of him. Are you? No. God, no. He's the best thing that's happened to me in years. Maya's voice broke slightly, but I don't know how to protect him from all this. Maybe that's not your job. Maybe your job is just to love him and let him decide what he can handle. After hanging up with Evelyn, Maya sat in her living room and looked at the city lights reflecting off the harbor. Somewhere out there, Luke was probably helping Sophie with homework or reading her a bedtime story. Somewhere out there was a life she could have if she was brave enough to choose it. Tuesday morning brought more calls from reporters and a text from Luke. Can we talk? My place tonight after Sophie's asleep? Maya stared at the message for 10 minutes before responding. Yes. She spent the day distracted, missing half of what her assistant said and approving budgets without really reading them. At 5 o'clock, she gave up pretending to work and drove to Luke's neighborhood. She parked outside his building and sat in her car, watching families come home from work and school. Normal people with normal problems, not splashed across newspaper lifestyle sections. At 8 o'clock, she climbed the familiar stairs to Luke's door. He opened it before she could knock. Sophie's asleep, he said quietly. Come in. Luke's apartment felt different somehow, smaller, sadder. The kitchen table was covered with Sophie's homework, but Luke's usual evening projects were nowhere to be seen. How is she? Maya asked, confused. Jenna called Sunday night, worried about reporters at Sophie's school. Luke sat heavily on the couch. I had to explain that you and I might not see each other for a while. What did she say? She asked if it was because she drew you in her picture. Maya closed her eyes. Oh, Luke. I told her it had nothing to do with her, but she's 7. She doesn't understand why grown-ups make things so complicated. They sat in silence for a moment. The board wants me to end this, Maya said finally. Or they want you to find another job. Luke nodded. I figured. What do you want to do? I want to be with you, Luke said simply. But not if you're going to spend every day worried about what people think. And I want to be with you, but not if it means Sophie gets hurt. So we're back where we started. Maya looked around the small apartment, at Sophie's artwork on the refrigerator, at the couch where she'd felt safe for the first time in years, at Luke's work boots by the door. What if we do this differently, she said slowly. How? What if we stop hiding, but we also stop apologizing? What if we just live our lives and let people think what they want? Luke studied her face. You sure you're ready for that? No, but I'm tired of being scared. Maya met his eyes. Are you willing to try it with me? Luke was quiet for a long moment. What about Sophie? Sophie comes first, always, but maybe we're underestimating how strong she is. And you're bored? Let me worry about the board. Luke held out his hand, palm up. Maya placed hers in it. "Beginning now," she said. "Beginning now," Luke agreed. This time, neither of them counted. Wednesday morning, Maya walked into the board meeting with her shoulders straight and her decision made. "I'm not ending my relationship with Luke Bennett," she said before anyone else could speak. "And I'm not asking him to find another job." Sandra Morrison's eyebrows shot up. "Maya, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. I'm also being honest." Maya looked around the table. "This company succeeds because we treat people fairly and with respect. That includes treating our CEO like a human being with a right to privacy and personal happiness." "But the publicity," Robert Chen began. "Will die down. It always does." Maya's voice was firm. "Luke Bennett is a good man who does his job well. I'm a good CEO who's brought this company record profits for 3 consecutive years. Our personal relationship doesn't change either of those facts." Sandra leaned forward. "And if the negative attention continues? Then we'll handle it the same way we handle any business challenge, professionally and with integrity." Evelyn spoke up for the first time. "I've reviewed the legal implications. As long as there's no direct reporting relationship and no conflicts of interest, there's no policy violation." "This isn't about policy," Sandra said. "This is about judgment." "You're right," Maya said. "It is about judgment. And I'm judging that a relationship built on mutual respect, clear boundaries, and genuine care is worth defending." The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Evelyn smiled. "All in favor of supporting Maya's right to make her own personal decisions?" 4 hands went up, including Evelyn's. Sandra Morrison and Robert Chen sat with their hands down, but they didn't object when Evelyn called the motion passed. "Meeting adjourned," Evelyn said. "Maya, good for you." That evening, Maya knocked on Luke's door with takeout bags in her hands. "I brought dinner," she said when he opened it, "and news." Sophie came running from her room. "Maya, Daddy said you might not come anymore, but you're here." "I'm here," Maya confirmed, kneeling down to Sophie's level. "And I plan to keep coming, if that's okay with you." "Really?" "Really." Sophie hugged her tightly. "I'm glad. It wasn't the same without you." Over dinner, take-out Chinese food eaten on paper plates, Maya told them about the board meeting. "You stood up to them?" Luke asked. "I told them the truth, that what we have is worth fighting for." Luke reached across the small table and took her hand. No asking permission this time, no counting to 5. "Beginning now," he said softly. "Beginning now," Maya agreed. Sophie looked between them, understanding something important had just happened, even if she didn't quite know what. "Can we all go fly kites this weekend?" she asked. "Like in my picture?" Maya looked at Luke, who was smiling for the first time in days. "I'd love that," Maya said. Outside, the first snow of the season was starting to fall, but inside Luke's small apartment, everything felt warm and possible, and exactly as it should be. The hard part wasn't over. There would still be whispers, still be questions, still be people who thought they had opinions about what love should look like. But for now, there was dinner around a scratched kitchen table, and a little girl planning kite-flying adventures, and 2 people who had chosen each other, despite every reason not to. For now, that was enough. The next morning brought 3 more interview requests and a photographer waiting outside Maya's condo building. She slipped out the back entrance and took a roundabout route to work, her phone buzzing with messages from reporters who'd somehow gotten her personal number. At the hotel, her assistant met her at the elevator with worried eyes. "Channel 5 called 4 times, she said, following Maya to her office, "and there's a woman from some blog in the lobby asking questions about workplace policies." Maya closed her office door and leaned against it. Through her window she could see their bench by the harbor, empty in the gray November morning. Her phone rang. Luke's number. "Hey," she answered, "we have a problem." His voice was tight. "Jenna called. Someone approached Sophie at school pickup yesterday. A woman with a camera asking if her daddy had a girlfriend." Maya's stomach dropped. "Is Sophie okay?" "She's confused. Jenna handled it, but..." Luke paused. "Maya, I can't have strangers talking to my daughter about my personal life." "I know. I'm so sorry." "Jenna wants to talk to both of us, tonight, after Sophie's asleep." Maya closed her eyes. "Okay. Are you having second thoughts?" "No," Maya said immediately. "Are you?" Every 5 minutes. But then I remember what you said about being tired of being scared. We'll figure this out. Yeah, Luke said, but he didn't sound convinced. That evening, Maya sat in Luke's living room while he put Sophie to bed. She could hear their routine through the thin walls, teeth brushing, story time, the gentle murmur of Luke's voice answering Sophie's endless questions. When Jenna arrived at 8:30, Maya stood nervously. Luke's ex-wife was petite and blonde, with kind eyes and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who worked in pediatric nursing. You must be Maya, Jenna said, extending her hand. I've heard a lot about you. Good things, I hope. Very good things. Sophie adores you. Jenna's expression grew serious, which is why we need to talk. They sat around Luke's kitchen table like adults trying to solve a complicated puzzle. I don't care who Luke dates, Jenna began, but I care very much about protecting Sophie from chaos. So do I, Maya said quietly. This photographer thing can't happen again. Sophie came home asking why a lady wanted to take her picture, whether she was in trouble, whether Daddy was in trouble. Jenna's voice was firm but not unkind. She's 7. She shouldn't have to think about any of this. Luke ran his hands through his hair. What do you want us to do? I want clear rules. No media anywhere near Sophie. No photos of her ever. And if this attention doesn't die down in the next few weeks... Jenna trailed off. What? Maya asked. I might need to adjust the custody schedule. Keep Sophie with me more until things settle. The words hit Luke like a physical blow. Jenna, you can't... I can and I will if I have to. Sophie's stability comes first. Maya watched Luke's face crumble and felt something break apart in her chest. What if I step back, she heard herself say, just for a few weeks, until the attention dies down. Maya, no, Luke said immediately. It makes sense. If I'm not around, there's no story. There's already a story, Jenna pointed out. Stepping back now might just make them dig harder. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of impossible choices settling over the small kitchen. What if we control the narrative? Maya said slowly. Luke and Jenna both looked at her. What do you mean? Luke asked. What if we stop running from the story and tell our own version? One interview, one photographer, our terms. Then we're done talking about it. Absolutely not, Luke said. I'm not putting Sophie in the spotlight. Not Sophie, just us. We tell them it's a private relationship between two adults who respect each other. We answer their questions once, and then we ask to be left alone. Jenna considered this. Would that actually work? Sometimes, Maya said. If you give reporters what they want, they move on to the next story. And if they don't? Luke asked. Then we deal with that when it happens, but at least we tried to control it. The next morning, Maya called Channel 7 and agreed to a 15-minute interview. Just her, no Luke, no Sophie. Her terms, her location. She chose the hotel's quiet lounge, with its warm lighting and expensive but understated furniture. Professional, but not cold. The reporter, Tracy Walsh, was younger than Maya had expected, with sharp eyes and a kind smile. Thank you for agreeing to talk, Tracy said as the camera operator set up. I know this has been a difficult week. It has, Maya said simply. When the cameras rolled, Tracy asked the expected questions. How did they meet? Was there a conflict of interest? What did Maya say to critics who questioned the appropriateness of the relationship? Maya answered honestly but carefully. They'd met by chance. There was no professional conflict. And she believed two adults had the right to get to know each other without public scrutiny. Some people have questioned whether a CEO dating a maintenance worker sends the wrong message about professional boundaries, Tracy said. Maya had prepared for this question, but sitting there under the bright lights, she felt a surge of anger. What message do you think it sends? Maya asked. I'm asking what you think. I think it sends the message that a person's character matters more than their job title, that kindness and integrity aren't determined by how much money you make or what kind of work you do. Maya's voice was steady, but her eyes were fierce. Luke Bennett is one of the best men I've ever known. Anyone who thinks his profession makes him less worthy of respect or love is someone whose opinion I don't value. Tracy blinked, clearly not expecting such a direct answer. And to people who say you're dating down? I'm not dating down, I'm dating up. Luke is raising a wonderful daughter as a single parent while working full-time and going to school at night for his electrician's license. He's more accomplished than most people I know. When the interview aired that evening, Maya watched from Luke's couch with him and Sophie. Sophie clapped when Maya said nice things about her daddy. "You were really brave," Sophie said seriously. "Like a superhero." Luke squeezed Maya's hand. "Thank you," he said quietly. The interview helped. The phone calls slowed down, and the photographer outside Maya's building disappeared. By the following week, the neighborhood blog had moved on to a controversy about parking meters, but the damage lingered in small ways. Maya noticed staff members whispering when she walked by. Luke mentioned that a few coworkers had made comments about landing the boss. Sophie asked why some of her classmates' parents looked at them funny at school pickup. "Maybe we should take a real break," Luke said one evening as they walked along the harbor path. It was their first public appearance together since the interview, and Maya could feel people's eyes following them. "Is that what you want?" Maya asked. "I want Sophie to feel normal. I want to stop worrying that every time we're together in public, someone might take a picture." Maya understood, but the thought of going back to her sterile condo, her careful routines, her untouchable life, made her chest tight with panic. "What if we go away for a weekend?" she said suddenly. "Somewhere no one knows us, just to remember what it feels like when it's just us." Luke stopped walking. "What about Sophie?" "Sophie too, if Jenna agrees. A family weekend. Nothing fancy, just normal." Luke studied her face. "You sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Jenna surprised them by saying yes. "Maybe some distance from here would be good for all of you," she said. Maya rented a small cabin in New Hampshire, 2 hours from Boston. Nothing luxury, just a 3-bedroom place with a fireplace and a view of a lake that was starting to freeze over. They drove up on a Friday afternoon, Sophie chattering excitedly from the back seat about whether there might be deer in the woods. "There," Luke said as they pulled into the gravel driveway. "No reporters, no photographers, no board members. No fancy restaurants or hotel lobbies," Maya added. "No grown-up drama," Sophie said firmly. The cabin was perfect, rustic but clean, with a kitchen that smelled like pine and coffee. Sophie claimed the loft bedroom immediately, declaring it her fort. That first evening, they made spaghetti and meatballs while Sophie drew pictures of the lake. Maya watched Luke move around the small kitchen, comfortable and easy, and felt something settle in her chest that had been restless for weeks. After dinner, they built a fire and played board games until Sophie fell asleep on the couch. "I should carry her upstairs," Luke said softly. "Wait." Maya looked at the three of them, Luke with his arm around her, Sophie curled against their legs, the fire crackling in the background. "I want to remember this." "Remember what?" "What it feels like to be a family." Luke's arm tightened around her. "Maya, I know we're not there yet, but this is what it could look like, isn't it? If you want it to." "I do want it, all of it, the complicated parts and the ordinary parts and everything in between." Luke pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "Even the reporters and the whispers and the board meetings?" "Even those, especially those, because they're part of protecting this." Saturday morning, they woke to snow falling outside the cabin windows. Sophie pressed her face to the glass and announced they absolutely had to build a snowman. Maya hadn't played in snow since she was a child, but she found herself laughing as Sophie directed their snowman construction with the authority of a small general. "His head is lopsided," Sophie declared. "That gives him character," Luke said, packing more snow. "Maya, you do the face." Maya carefully placed stones for eyes and a carrot for the nose. Sophie added a scarf from the cabin's closet and pronounced their creation perfect. They spent the afternoon sledding down the small hill behind the cabin. Maya shrieked the first time down, clutching Luke's jacket as their sled spun sideways. "Again!" Sophie called from the bottom of the hill. They went down dozens of times until their cheeks were red and their gloves were soaked through. Inside, they made hot chocolate and sat by the fire, Sophie falling asleep between them again. "This is what normal feels like," Maya said quietly. "Pretty nice," Luke agreed. "I don't want to go back to the way things were before." "Before me?" "Before this, before feeling like I belonged somewhere." Luke turned to look at her fully. "You belong with us. Whatever that looks like in Boston, with all the complications." "Promise?" "Promise." Sunday afternoon, they drove back to Boston with Sophie singing made-up songs in the back seat and Luke's hand resting on Maya's knee. Reality hit as soon as they reached the city limits. Maya's phone, silent all weekend, buzzed with dozens of notifications, work emails, missed calls, text messages. Back to the real world, Luke said. The real world is what we make it, Maya replied, but she was already scrolling through her messages, sliding back into CEO mode. At Luke's apartment, Maya helped carry their bags upstairs while Sophie ran ahead to check on her stuffed animals. Thank you, Luke said as they stood in his doorway. For this weekend. For fighting for us. Thank you for letting me be part of your family. You are part of our family. Maya kissed him softly, then walked to her car. As she drove home, she thought about the cabin, about Sophie's laughter, about the way Luke had looked at her across the fire. Tomorrow would bring board meetings and quarterly reports and all the careful politics of her professional life. But tonight, she was just Maya, someone who could build snowmen and ride sleds and belong somewhere without apology. Monday morning brought a surprise. Mr. Alvarez was waiting by the elevator with a small wrapped package. For you, Miss Ellison, he said, beaming. Sophie dropped it off this morning before school. Maya opened it carefully. Inside was a drawing of 3 figures building a snowman with Our Family Weekend written in Sophie's careful printing across the top. There was also a note in Luke's handwriting. Thank you for showing us what brave looks like. See you Tuesday for lunch? Maya smiled, folding the note carefully. Mr. Alvarez? She said as the elevator doors opened. Yes, Miss Ellison. If anyone asks, you can tell them I'm very happy. Yes, ma'am. I can see that you are. The weeks that followed weren't perfect. There were still whispers, still the occasional reporter calling for comment on some imaginary scandal. Sandra Morrison continued to make pointed comments in board meetings about distractions and professional image. But something fundamental had shifted. Maya no longer flinched when people looked at her and Luke together. She stopped checking over her shoulder when they walked through the hotel lobby. She started introducing Luke as my boyfriend instead of a friend when they ran into her colleagues. Luke finished his electrician certification and got a raise. Sophie started bringing Maya pictures she'd drawn at school. Jenna invited Maya to coffee and told her, with characteristic directness, that she'd never seen Luke happier. Just don't hurt him, Jenna said over lattes. He's tougher than he looks, but he feels everything deeply. So do I, Maya said. That's why this works. On a cold Thursday evening in December, Maya knocked on the door of the hotel's quiet room, the same room where everything had started 3 months earlier. Luke was waiting inside, tools spread on the small table. Elevator maintenance again? Maya asked. Something like that. Luke gestured to one of the chairs. Sit down? Maya sat, curious. Luke seemed nervous, which wasn't like him. I've been thinking, he said, kneeling down in front of her chair, about rules and boundaries and asking permission. Okay. There's something I want to ask you, but I need to know you feel completely safe saying no. Maya's heart started beating faster. Ask me. Luke pulled a small velvet box from his tool bag. Maya Ellison, would you like to spend the rest of your life building snowmen and practicing consent and being part of our family? Maya stared at the box, then at Luke's face. Are you proposing? Yeah, I am. Luke's hands were shaking slightly. I know it's fast and I know it's complicated, but I also know that every day with you feels like the life I was supposed to be living. Maya thought about the woman she'd been 3 months ago, untouchable, careful, alone. Then she thought about Sophie's drawings and weekend cabins and the feeling of Luke's hand steadying her when she stumbled. Yes, she said, reaching for him. Beginning now? Beginning now, Luke agreed, slipping the ring onto her finger. They sat in the quiet room where they'd first touched, holding hands and planning a life that would certainly be complicated, but would definitely be theirs. Outside, snow was starting to fall again, and somewhere in the city, a little girl was probably drawing pictures of weddings and families and all the ways love could look when people were brave enough to choose each other. Maya turned off the sound machine and listened to their breathing, steady and synchronized. She was more than okay. She was home. Epilogue, 6 months later. The wedding was small, just family and close friends in the hotel's rooftop garden. Sophie served as the flower girl and the unofficial wedding planner, having very strong opinions about everything from the color of the tablecloths to the flavor of the cake. Maya wore a simple cream dress and carried purple flowers, Sophie's suggestion. Luke wore his best suit and cried during his vows, which made Sophie announce loudly that Daddy gets emotional at important stuff. Evelyn officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. Mr. Alvarez took photos with everyone's enthusiastic permission. During the ceremony, when the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union, Sophie raised her hand and said, "I object to not having cake yet," which made everyone laugh and perfectly captured the spirit of the whole event. Sandra Morrison had resigned from the board 2 weeks earlier, citing philosophical differences. No one was particularly sorry to see her go. For their first dance, Maya and Luke swayed to an old song about ordinary miracles, while Sophie danced with Jenna nearby. The hotel staff watched from the windows below, smiling at their boss who'd finally learned that love was worth any amount of gossip. Later, as guests mingled and Sophie collected cake frosting on her dress, Maya found herself standing at the garden's edge, looking out over the harbor. "Second thoughts?" Luke asked, joining her at the railing. "Just the opposite." Maya leaned into him. "I keep thinking about that first night, how sure I was that letting someone touch me would be the end of the world. And now? Now I know it was the beginning of everything." Luke wrapped his arms around her from behind, and Maya relaxed completely into his embrace. No counting, no asking permission, just the easy intimacy of two people who'd learned to trust each other, one careful breath at a time. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Bennett?" Maya smiled at the sound of her new name. "Ready." They collected Sophie, who was explaining wedding traditions to anyone who would listen, and headed down to their car. Tomorrow would bring the ordinary challenges of blended families and busy careers and all the small negotiations that make up a life shared. But tonight, driving through Boston with Luke's hand on her knee and Sophie chattering about how pretty everything looked, Maya felt the deep contentment that comes from finally being exactly where you belong. At the next red light, Luke squeezed her hand. "Beginning now," he said softly. "Beginning now," Maya agreed, and they drove toward home through the gentle darkness, three people who'd learned that the best love stories aren't about dramatic gestures or perfect timing. They're about ordinary courage, repeated daily, until what once seemed impossible becomes as natural as breathing. The light turned green, and they continued on.